Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah, and a very warm welcome to this Narrative House podcast. We're now 4 days in to the newest war in the Middle East. There's a lot going on. The war seems to be expanding. There's more players coming in. So we thought this would be a good idea, really, to actually take stock of where we are. We met 2 days ago when the war started to look at what was going on then. So we think it's a good idea, really, because of how rapidly things are developing, to really have a look at where things are on this fourth day, where things are potentially going, and really what are the things that you need to know. So my guest today, we have Ahmed, who is in Australia at the moment. He's just joining us. Assalamu alaikum, Ahmed.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
And we have Dr. Jalani, who is joining us all the way from the USA. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Jalani.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brothers.
Alhamdulillah. So good to have you both here. I think let's jump straight into it. As I mentioned, it's been 4 days. Let's get maybe your observations. What are you feeling? What are you seeing? How do you feel things are going after 4 days? If we start with you, Dr. Jalani.
Well, first, salam alaikum for all the brothers and those who are watching this podcast. In this fourth day, just to sum it up, the first layer of the Iranian, it's called Revolutionary Guards, Revolutionary Cabinet, the Ayatollah, are eliminated by the strikes, and the ones who are responsible for that, of course, and the one who did that hit is the Zionist state. Then the war expanded almost to the entire Gulf area, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Oman, Bahrain, Kuwait, Emirat, and all of these, of course, because the Iranians claim that the American bases are there and they are used for to launch attacks. Whether it's true or not, that's not the story, but that's how it is. Of course, Iranians have intensified their attacks on also the Zionist state. Hezbollah has been included, although still shy related to the time when it was during the Gaza war. So this is to sum this up. In the United States, the approval rate of this war is below 25%. Depending on who is doing the surveys or the polls, whether it's the Washington Post, New York Times, CNN, PBS, but all of them, they show very poor approval for this war. And some claim still from inside the United States, high officials, there is the Defense Secretary Council or consultant, X1, he claims bluntly that this is the Israeli war. That's not American war. America is pulled in the war because of Israel, and eventually the losers, the main loser will be neither the United States nor Iran. It will be the Zionist state. That's what, at least that there is claims like this. That's to sum it up. In general, from the European perspective and then the world at large, China, Russia still absolutely silent on this issue. They are not showing any interest in it, real interest. UK today, President Trump with his press conference with the German Chancellor, he actually named UK, and he was sorry about their position that they are not allowing their jet fighters to land in, and he called it in the island, which is he called the British island, just like Greenland. That's an interesting notion. He said they are costing us a few more hours to fly. We should have been given the right. He also bombarded Spain. He said, Spain, I will add more tariff on them because they are not allowing us to use the bases. He mentioned about Germany. He said, I hope Germany will not do that. He looked at the Chancellor. By the way, the Chancellor did not respond yes or no. So that's still, that means these guys, they know that this is not the proper war that they want to be engaged in. That's from the quick scenario, quick wrap up where things stand, and we'll be talking more on the political side as you go.
Definitely, we'll jump into that more. Ahmed, what's your observations 4 days in?
Yeah, so Dr. Malkawi has summarized it well for us. What I would say is that the biggest observation at the moment can be summarized by what the foreign minister of Turkey recently said a few hours ago, Hakan Fidan, where he said, it seems that the slogan of the Iranians right now is that if we are going down, then we will bring down the whole region with us. When he was commenting on all the attacks that are happening on the Gulf regions and Saudi, across and Jordan and across the whole Middle East. And he was saying to the Iranians that you should choose who you target wisely, because you don't want to drag the whole region into this into something that we can't get out of, and it will engulf the whole region, and there's a high chance that we can go into a new wave of war which we cannot extinguish, or no one can extinguish. So that's the best way to summarize how the reaction of the Iranians has been so far. On the political front, what we can see, something that caught my attention was that the American president's statements is that when he said that we are very close to achieving our goals in terms of hitting Iran. And then immediately Netanyahu also said to an American news agency, saying that we cannot we cannot work with the Iranian regime in order to fix it or work within it or maintain it as it is, which seemed to be a response to Trump, because we know that the Israelis have huge ambitions, as opposed to the Americans. The Israelis' ambitions is to bring down the entire regime, whereas the Americans might suffice with the destruction of the nuclear program and the ballistic missiles to some extent. And they can say, we've achieved what we want, and now let's go back to the table if there is someone to sit on the other side of the table. Whereas what we see from the Israelis is that they are not even willing to accept this, and this is an opportunity for them that they do not want to let go of, that finally they've opened up this new front of war against Iran, which is it's probably the biggest that it's ever been so far. And they do not want to miss this opportunity, because they know that if this opportunity goes, then the next opportunity is very far away if there is another one. And we see that they will try and sabotage any attempts to elect someone new within the Iranian regime, because if someone new comes instead of Ali Khamenei, they fear that the new person might be a pragmatist or might be willing to sit with the Americans and actually come to some sort of agreement to put an end to the war. So there was news that they actually bombed the place where there was the executive meeting to elect a new successor of Ali Khamenei, but that meeting place was actually empty, from what the news emerged. And just moments ago, there was some preliminary news that came out that Mujtaba Khamenei, the son of Ali Khamenei, was actually elected to take power instead of his father. But what we can see, the trajectory of events is that Americans might want something, but as usual, the Zionist entity will try and sabotage any attempt to put an end to this war abruptly without achieving what they want to achieve, which is a complete dismantling of the Iranian regime.
Okay. Some of my observations, it looks like once again the propaganda war has got off to a really bad start, and I think it's just going to get worse. So on Sunday, the day after America began the war, you had all the senior guys go on give press conferences, and it's like they don't talk to each other. They're all contradicting each other. 1 minute it's regime change, next minute it's about the nukes, next minute it's about the ballistics, next minute the war will be over in a week, next minute it's going to go on for 5 weeks. It's like these are 3-4 guys who are in different regimes or something. They don't really talk to each other. So it's got up to a bad start. And already, I think there's a big Iraq syndrome in America. People are seeing it again. We're going to war. It's going to be supposed to be a quick war, and we don't know how this is going to turn out eventually. So I think that's probably the first thing. I think a lot of people are really surprised with the Iranian response. America now has to defend the Gulf states. It's got to defend Israel. It's got to defend Cyprus. You just can't stop every missile. Some of them are going to get through, and you only need a few of them to get through for people to feel, okay, this war's going in the wrong direction. So, if America thought this might be a walk in the park, it's not. In Europe, you mentioned, Doctor, about the UK Prime Minister. The problem he's really unpopular in the UK. They've just lost a local election. He initially said no to America. So America uses the north of the UK as a supply line from the Atlantic going towards the Middle East. So he initially said no. And he's done a bit of a U-turn on it already. And obviously, the longer this war goes on, America's going to want a supply line. It's going to want to bring in more supply. It's going to need the European countries for that, which is going to cause a lot of contention across Europe and the situation a lot of the politicians find themselves in. So I think, yeah, this is quite interesting. Dr. Malgawi, you mentioned the assassination attempt. It seems once again, Israel and America have been quite successful at taking out the senior members of the regime. How have they been able to do that? Why has Iran not learned its lessons from the 12-day war last year?
Well, I personally have a very, let's say, deep grievance for the way Iran runs the country, right from the very beginning of the revolution. Since they started, it's already been 46 years. And I'm so shocked that Iran still had not achieved self-independence, at least in the main issues that concern the people, the food, the utilities, everything that's local. Especially from the day one, they announced that this is death to America, death to Israel. They announced so-called artificial, in my opinion, artificial or superficial or even deep enmity to superpowers. And they were under sanctions. And until today, Iran continues to be literally is dependent on others. So from this perspective, I think the Iranians, yes, they still have guts to fight. Yes, they still have some weapons to go there. But deep inside, there is a big rift inside Iran. There is the so-called the extremists, the moderates, the ones the first liners which have been eliminated. And that's what America relies on. That's the second layer of the governance are going to be much more forward in their relations with the United States. Now, it doesn't mean that the first layer, which is already eliminated, were not in direct connections with the United States, appeasing them for all types of issues like in Syria, in Iraq, in Sudan, in Yemen, in Lebanon, which we have seen. But now probably the second layer would come and would be much more open. And again, I compare this to transfer of Egypt from the time of Abdel Nasser to Sadat. It was only one day flip. Abdel Nasser passed away, he was killed or he just died. Sadat comes up and he opens up all the relations which were under the cover. So now I think that's what at the end of the day we will see, no matter how the war will end, the potential outcome is that Iran would come up wide open with its relations with the United States. Now, how is that going to impact the Zionist state? I think it will have a serious impact on them. They are the ones who will suffer the most out of the outcome of the war. Iran is too big to destroy. Iran is not a yesterday-born country, as one of the counselor to ex-defense minister in America was saying. Either America or the Israelis, they don't understand that they are not fighting with a 46-year-old country. This is a whole Persian empire which lived thousands of years ago. There's lots of big culture there. that's not easy to defeat in a war. They can suffer some losses, but they cannot suffer entire defeat.
Ahmed, let's have a look at Iran. We're seeing them obviously launch lots of missiles across the region. We see them using drones. What can we deduce? What's their strategy? What can you see their strategies that they're pursuing?
It seems that the strategy of the Iranians so far is to impact as much harm as possible to American strategic interests in the region in order to put a halt to the attack on Iran in any way, shape, or form. But in the same time, this is also hurting the Zionist entity through the attacks on the Zionist entity itself, and it's also hurting those who host these American forces in their countries. And we saw one of the officials, I think it was a Saudi official or Emirati official on Al Jazeera, complaining that the Americans are not providing enough defense for us or for our countries. Rather, they are putting all the defenses for the Zionist entity, leaving us exposed to these Iranian missiles. And this is the blatant reality that's in front of all of us. And through these attacks, really, they are impacting and putting a lot of pressure. And what we can see, I think, deduce from this is that the Iranians do have some sort of intelligence within these countries, because we see drone attacks that actually target American forces that are not inside their bases. They may be inside hotels. And there was news that just came out just recently, over the past hour, that the Iranians were successful in attacking American intelligence in Saudi, who were inside a house or an apartment. So there is some sort of level of intelligence that they have, that they are relying on in order to carry out these attacks, to put a lot of pressure, as much pressure as possible, against America and the Zionist entity, as a response to the war that's been waged on them.
Mhm. So, Amr, the Iran's targeted the Gulf countries. What they're trying to achieve with that?
So the targeting of the Gulf countries, we can see a lot of the attacks are targeting US assets. That's the first thing that we see. And the second thing we see is the energy infrastructure in those countries. And this is the lifeline of the GCC countries. This is the lifeline of the region, and it has huge repercussions on the entire world, not just the region. The first that will be impacted by these repercussions are the GCC countries. Secondly, it will be Europe, as we see that the gas prices in some European countries have reached double at the moment, from what it was from since the war has started. And so by hitting those targets, this is directly putting pressure on them. And because of their close relationship with the US, the side effect of this is it will also put pressure on the US itself as well, and the Zionist entity, because these are the closest targets to the Iranians, and they can't strike America itself with their rockets.
Yeah, so it seems Iran's general strategy is to raise the costs for America. Because obviously you can't expect Iran to take on America directly. America has more capability. So the next best thing is you force them to fight across the region and you raise the cost, which is what we're basically seeing. Dr. Jalani, what do you see as the Israeli-American strategy currently, the military strategy? How do you see it going in the next week or so?
Well, Israel main objectives in this war is to make sure that Iran will not have a military capability at all to rival that of the Zionist state. That's their major concern. The Zionist state, unlike what Netanyahu was saying about democracy, all of this garbage talk is irrelevant. What's really relevant, does Iran have the capability of building nuclear, which based on some of slip of a tongue of Trump, it seems that actually they do. And that's what really scares the heck out of the Zionist state, that this country, either it's 10 hours away from building a bomb and becoming a rival. From the second perspective, they have the long-range missiles, the ballistic missiles, that they can carry out those bombs and reach the state. To them, that's the most scary part. The Zionist state, the last one to talk about democracy or about genocides, their hands are so blooded with the blood of Palestinians in Gaza, so they cannot even use that rhetoric, although they do, but that's baloney. What really their main objective, the Zionist state, is to make sure that Iran will not become a rival to the state of Israel. Number two, that Iran probably would no longer be considered by the United States as a stabilizing force in the new Middle East paradigm that they have. That's their objective. They don't care about anything else. They don't care about the Gulf. They don't care even about what America is going to lose or not lose, public opinion. And according to some of the reports, actually, this, which I insist, this is a war of Israel, just like they started it in June, and America came to end it. And this time, the United States will look at all possible ways to finish this war with minimal possible damage to their reputations. Now, as you mentioned, and Brother Amir was mentioning, the expansion to the Gulf area, I think that's Iranian strategy to put a pressure to end the war sooner than what it was supposed to be. Because if you remember, during the Gaza war, one major issue that came up, that let's not regionalize the war. We don't want anything to go into a regional scale. So now Iran has the at least the flag that they can raise. Oh, this cannot be anything but regional, because the entire region is implicated by this. So that's the dynamics now. And if you will, if I were to listen to what Trump is talking to his advisors, now probably he's looking for some, what is the way to end this war with the most advantageous gains and with less losses. Let's get, in fact, he was talking about uh, who is going to lead next. He dismissed the idea of the Bahlawi, I forgot his name, the son of the Shah. Uh, he said, no, we want someone that the people can accept in Iran and they can continue, which means let's keep the Iran. And actually, he used the example of Venezuela. So we got rid of the Maduro. Now we are happy. Everything is fine. We have got 100 million barrels of oil and everything is okay. So as if he's saying, if we can get someone in Iran now publicly to talk to us and to so that uh, we can do good business with them politically, economically, and otherwise, United States would be more than willing to stop the war against what the Israelis they want.
So, Ahmed, I think the Straits of Hormuz is now officially closed. The Iranians are saying every ship is a potential target. The Americans are saying we're going to bring our navy in and escort them. Um, why is the Straits of Hormuz so important? Why is everyone trying to fight for it?
So the Strait of Hormuz is a choke point. It's a narrow choke point for approximately 20% of the global oil exports around the world. And that's why it's very important. The moment that this is impacted, then it will directly impact, first of all, the oil prices and all the energy products that pass through this. It would firstly impact the local region, the GCC primarily, and it will also impact international prices. So the everyday consumer in Australia is going to see an increase in petrol prices because of this. Um, Everyday consumer in America will see an increase in prices in petrol and gas because of this. So this is why this is a vital choke point for the entire world. And Trump, a few hours ago, came out and said that we are now willing to militarily escort any cargo ships that want to pass this strait, because of how this just shows how important it is for the US and for the entire world and the economics of the world, that they are willing now to militarily escort and protect these ships to pass through safely, because they need the flow of energy to continue on a global scale. Because, like we said earlier, closing this is putting pressure on America. And it's the same thing as targeting all the energy infrastructure in the GCC and Saudi and everywhere else. These are points in order to put pressure on America to put an end to the war without the Iranians raising the white flag. And I think this is where the Americans kind of miscalculated. If we look at the first strikes against Iran and the statements by Trump and Netanyahu, the ambitions were very, very big. It was about regime change, and then, we've done our part. Now it's up to the Iranian people to come out in the streets and continue on. And, this is your opportunity, this is your chance. And then as they saw that the Iranians were able to absorb the shock and fight back and really do things maybe they wouldn't have expected to escalate to this extent in a short period of time, and now the tone is changing in America. And there was news that came out from the American press that internally within the decision-making circle of Trump, that there is a lot of anarchy and stress around this whole operation. Where is this going? And that's why we see the hesitancy of the Europeans, because Europeans might have learned from the mistakes of the Iraq war and the Afghanistan war. And this is why it was a shock to some that America was able to actually take such a step in this way against Iran, because Iran is not Iraq. It's a completely different scenario. It's completely different geography. Everything is different here, and so the price against Iran is going to be much larger than what it was against Iraq. And if the Zionist entity was not able to make small groups in Gaza to raise the white flag throughout the 2 years, what makes you think that you're going to make a country as large as Iran raise the white flag through airstrikes only in a short period of time? And so I think they are now looking for a safe exit strategy from this.
Mhm. So, Johnny, what is the public perception in America at the moment? Are they supportive of this action? Are they against it? What's going on the ground in America about this?
Well, as I said at the beginning, on the ground of America, the rating of the pro-war less than 25%, and mostly these are Republicans. But the majority of Americans, which includes now Democrats as well as Republicans, based on polls made by the CNN, by New York Times, by the PBS, and by many other agencies, all of them, they had the rating of the not accepting the war, the ones who are not in favor of it, more than 50%. 59% was the poll made by the CNN, which is very high, and the and the general tendency here is that the cost of living is going to be higher for a while. It's already very high. It's already really not acceptable by many people, but now it's going to be even worse. So the United States public opinion is not in favor of this war, and there is growing voices again voicing that this is not our war. This war is for the Zionist state. That's not ours. It's the United States is not bothered, will never be bothered by a nuclear country coming out in the region. After all, United States has in front of it China, Russia, Korea, India, Pakistan. So these are all of them are nuclear powers. They have nuclear capabilities, and that's not really issue for America. It's an issue for the Zionist state, and the Zionist state. It's their issue, not because Iran is threatening them, but because the Zionist state wants to expand whenever it wants and violates the regional stability the way it wants. And it fears that at some point of time this country can tell them, no, you cannot do that. So that's the whole issue. So United States knows, the people, public, they know that this is not our war. And this is a war of someone else. We are fighting a proxy war for the Zionist state. And of course, as I said, the prices of gas in the gas stations, people are already complaining. The prices are rising. Almost United States, it's like mercury. It gets impacted by some heat almost in a second, in a split of a second. Something happens. Somebody coughs somewhere in Iran or in Pakistan, and here the people will say, "Oh, I got the virus," or "Please don't infect me." So that's how it goes. Already the prices are up, and people are complaining about this.
Do you think, Dr., it's possible, if this doesn't go in the right direction, can you see America putting troops on the ground if needed?
Well, America has already repeated the example of Iraq multiple times from different perspectives. In order to put ground on the troop, at the end of the day, you need a stabilizing force that can help you. Like when America put its troop in Iraq, it found Iran, or it already counted on Iran to come and help them. Now, if they do that in Iran, Iran is a vast country, big country. Who's going to come and stabilize counter revolutions and resistance? And if you remember, if you recall, when United States first got into in Iraq, they were losing on the average 100 soldiers a day at the beginning, until they were able to really get big help from Iran through ISIS, of course, which they keep talking about ISIS, that this is terrorist group. They actually created ISIS later on, and ISIS was supported by Iran in order to help the United States reduce its casualties. So United States will have a grave mistake if they put troops on the ground. And I believe that until today, the answer for this question in the US is no, no. We will not put ground forces there. After all, United States relies on the next level of governorship that will come up from within the same 1979 revolution and afterwards, that will be much more compliant with, much more openly compliant. Look, all of these current ones, the ones that who were killed, they were compliant with US policies, especially externally, but not openly, beneath the hood. Today, what America wants to see is something above the hood, that cooperation becomes much more open.
Mhm.
So
So,
there is
Ahmed,
no, yeah.
yeah.
So there is no need for the ground troops. Sorry.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
So, Ahmed, what are Iran's proxies doing? Are they entering the war on Iran's side?
So we've seen so far some activity in Iraq from the Iranian proxies in Iraq, the Shia militias in Iraq. They've started mostly attacking Erbil and the American presence inside Iraq. And as of recent, we've seen Hezbollah has officially entered the war. Like Dr. Malkawi mentioned earlier, that it was a shy entrance to the war. They started off by launching 6 missiles from Lebanon into the Zionist entry, and that was the official start. There was a lot of doubt that it was them initially, because it was just 6 missiles, and people were saying it might be someone else. And then they came out with the official statement saying this is in defense of Lebanon, first and foremost, because Israel has been violating the ceasefire since the ceasefire took place. And second of all, this is in revenge of Ayatollah Khamenei. Now, this is very logical from Hezbollah, to say the least, because we know that the Zionist intention of this war is to finish off multiple objectives, not just Iran. They still have Hezbollah that they haven't finished up with, and they had called up upon 100,000 reserve soldiers. Who are these reserve soldiers for? It's not for Iran. So the indicators were showing that it was meant to be for the Lebanese border or the northern border, in order to resume the war on Hezbollah and finish off what they haven't finished off. They've always been calling for the dismantling of Hezbollah, for disarming of Hezbollah, which hasn't happened up until today. They tried to push the Lebanese government to do that. The Lebanese government pushed back on it. They performed some show or some footage saying we are now taking control of some Hezbollah weapons, but this was obviously a show to America and everyone else that look, we are doing our part as much as possible. They couldn't do it because going down that path, it might push the country into another civil war, which no one wants in Lebanon. There is no appetite for civil war in Lebanon at all. So the Zionists are, and we go back to the statement of Netanyahu only a few days ago, where he said that we are going to finish off the Shia axis. There is a war against the Shia axis, and we are going to also destroy the rising Sunni axis in the region. So what does this mean? And what we are seeing today cannot be separated from these statements. When he said that we are forming a new alliance in the region with India, with Cyprus, with Greece, and some Arab countries, in order to finish off these two rising axis and one falling axis, the Shia axis and the Sunni axis. So what we are seeing today is exactly that. Those words were not empty words. They knew what was coming, and what Tucker Carlson said yesterday, where he said that there was news that emerged that the Mossad were actually planning some attacks inside Saudi and Qatar. This is not surprising if true. There's no confirmation yet, but this is the least surprising thing at the moment, because the easiest thing for the Zionist entity right now is to make Iran and Saudi and Qatar and these other so-called Sunni countries in the region, or Arab countries in the region, to actually fight each other, whilst the Zionist entity sits back and watches and lets them weaken each other. Because at the end of the day, the Zionist entity doesn't care about the Gulf states, doesn't care about Saudi, doesn't care about anyone else in the region. The best outcome for the Zionist entity is that everyone comes out losing out of this war, except for the Zionist entity, and they come out as a dominator on top. This is the ultimate goal at the end of the day. They've said it multiple times that after Iran, it's going to be Turkey. There's Pakistan, there's Saudi, there's Egypt. So all of this is a big file. The quickest way to get to that is to push them against each other, get them to weaken each other. So this is what they might be betting on, and nothing is out of expectation. Like what we are living in exceptional times, I think. Even to the question of the American boots on ground, nothing about this war is logical. Nothing about America striking Iran right now in the matter it did was logical. A lot of analysts were saying that the most America would do is a quick and precise military strike against Iran, and end it there, as they did after the 12-day war. But to have a prolonged military campaign against Iran was illogical. So can they have boots on ground in the future? It's illogical to say so, but is it possible? Then yes, it is possible, because these are exceptional times that we are living in, and the region is going through turbulent times at the moment.
So, Ronnie, I've got a question for you. I'm seeing online, you've got those who are celebrating the death of Khomeini, because he's got blood on his hands. You've got those who are saying he's an 86-year-old man that stood up to America. How do you view his death? If you could give some perspective on that.
Oh, the question's for me?
Yeah.
Well, inside Iran, after 46 years of the so-called the Islamic Republic of Iran, there is a split into two groups. One group is the dominant, starting the revolution, and one is the one that's growing up and becoming more stronger, which is the so-called the moderates ones. And these moderates ones, again, there are two types. One of them is absolutely secular. They are from the older time, where the democracy and the freedom of speech, everything is happening. And the other is more like the moderates, like Khatami and Pezeshkian, the ones who they need to keep the revolutionary spirit, but to move away from the Islamic Shia type of control. and that's growing, and that's not something hidden, and it's not uh, people inside Iran can feel it, they know it, and in fact, whenever one of their guys get for the election, already two times they have been able to put a president in the driving seat. So that's the situation of Iran. So, and of course, there is the group that is celebrating the death or the killing of the mullahs and the ayatollah, etc. These are absolutely secularist, absolutely, uh, and they are minority. These are not. This is not the biggest crowd in Iran. But again, look, Iran is an old country. Again, the going back to the Persian type of things, even under the Islamic rule, Iran was not completely in line with the new civilization. They kept the Persianism as alive as possible. Every time they had a chance to bring back the Persian type of rule, they were able to do, like during the Safawi time. So this is the nature and the structure of Iran. And United States is counting on that. They know it very well. Of course, United States supported the hardliners at the beginning. Until now, they were in direct talk with them. Even until today, there is a news that the actual talk and discussions and negotiations has not ceased between U.S. and Iranian officials to see what's the day after is going to be from the current regime. I'm not talking about people who are not outside, who are the second class. No, I'm talking about the first class of the rulership. Still, the discussions and the talks are still going on. So, so Iran is. Sorry about that. So, so Iran, the structure of Iran is not easy, is not simple. The best way, and this is American strategy, is to use it as much as possible, use it as is. And as I mentioned, uh, this is inside Iran, can be worked out. There is enough support for that politically within the elite class and the second class. It is United States understands that very well, and they know it, and they know how it can be done. And the only ones, as I said, who don't want to see that at all, neither the first class, neither the second class, or the third class, is the Zionist state. They just want to see Iran demolished as a powerful state, goes back to become like Saudi Arabia, like Egypt, big country, but deprived out of its own teeth. That is the main issue there. Now, having said that, I think let me go back to a bit more detail. United States never goes to a war with one single objective. Whenever United States goes something, it pulls out some files from the drawers. What can we do on the side while this war is happening? And this is what happened in Ukraine, what happened back during the Iraq time, what happened during the 9/11 episode. And one of these files that US has in its background is the Gulf itself. See, the Gulf state, United States has dominance over them, but the alliance of the emirs of Kuwait, of Emirat, of Qatar, of Oman, of Bahrain continues to be pro-British, continues to be a UK. So I'm not surprised that they got involved, they got them involved in the war. Not, I'm pretty sure that Iran does not think that hitting these countries will slow down the fight against them. I'm pretty sure they know that this is not going to impact the war to become in their favor. After all, America can ignore all of them. But what is coming there is to put pressure on these rulers of these tiny little states, so that there will be create a possibility and environment for change, and that's we have to watch for it, and especially in the next phase after the war.
Mhm. So Ahmed, what's the chances of the surrounding Muslim countries entering on the side of America? Do you see that as a possibility?
Well, if we tie it back to what Dr. Madkawi said, if one of the objectives, the side objectives of the Americans is to bring the GCC countries under their wing, then it's not far-fetched that they become completely subordinate to the American wishes and American ambitions in the region. Whether how that looks like, whether it's political, economical, military, but do they really have the capability? Do the GCC countries have the military capability to actually go face off against a country like Iran? This is another question that we need to pose if we assess that. Saudi Arabia was hinting at saying that if the Iranian attacks continue on Saudi Arabia, then Saudi has the right to defend itself. How far would they go? Would they actually take a step to military standoff with Iran? The coming days will show. Pakistan hinted to the Iranians saying that don't forget that us and Saudis have a military pact, and we're not saying that we are going to strike you, but just keep that in mind when you are striking the Saudis. So it's not far-fetched. We've seen these Arab countries, especially in this Middle Eastern region, where they've multiple times, sided with the US or were used by the US in order to carry out airstrikes in the region against various groups, whether it's in Syria or elsewhere. So nothing is far-fetched from them. We've seen like Afghanistan has come out and said we openly stand with the people of Iran, and we stand by them as a neighboring country. So that's been the stance of Afghanistan. Turkey has been mostly silent without taking a clear stance towards one party or the other. They've been holding the stick from the middle. Although there is news that the American base in Turkey has been used for military surveillance operations against Iran. And that's the current situation as we look at it today.
Dr. Jilani, why have Russia and China?
He was saying something.
Just on the issue of the Gulf and Saudi Arabia. Yesterday, I came across a document which is revealed, was not supposed to be public, from the Saudi government to the United States, complaining that U.S. pulled out some of the air defenses from Saudi Arabia and moved them to the Zionist state, which means compromising the plight and the status of the kingdom. That's after the attacks were done on Aramco, that's really the blood of Saudi Arabia, and that's an interesting move to see. Okay, sorry for the interruption, but I thought this
no problem.
Important to mention.
Very important. Why have China and Russia not entered the side of Iran yet?
Well, Russia and China, these guys are smart and they understand world politics. This is a regional issue, which is not part of their region. Unlike Pakistan, India, which is close to China, so that is a regional conflict, but China is part of that, and China interferes there as a regional power, not as a world power. Because once you interfere as a world power, so you need to change the map on the ground or to impact the what's going on in the region, then that becomes just like America used to say, I don't want to regionalize the conflict. These countries, they would not like to internationalize the conflict. So it's not within the international scope. And big powers like US, Russia, China, they do understand their borders and their limits and where the limits is between what's local, what's regional, what's international. I think that's the only thing. Otherwise, Russia knows that its relation with Iran, supposedly it should stand on its side, China the same, but say, sorry, this is out of our boundaries. That's the issue.
But Amr, just to close this out, what are you going to be watching for the next few days? What should we be watching? People are watching this podcast. What are some of the key things they should be looking for in order to see which direction things are going?
I mean, the situation is highly volatile, and the events are unfolding very, very quick. Within hours, there's escalations. Within hours, there's new targets being hit in the region. So, we always say that it's easy to start a war, but how do you end it? This is the hard part. And there's always room for surprises and unexpected things to arise during conflicts. And these are the things that really tip conflicts into new avenues, new arenas that no one ever thought of. And this is where really it gets people off guard and gets nations and states off guard, including the US. Can something unexpected happen in the region? Because this is why they always, during the war in Gaza, they always maintained that we do not want this to become a regional issue. Because they know the moment that it tips over into the region, something can happen somewhere that's not planned for and ignite a global war. And because we know the Middle East is in the heart of the world, and there's always this is the most contentious point in the world. It has many moving parts and many parties are involved in it. So we keep an eye out on who's going to be the successor of Ali Khamenei and who's going to take the leadership of Iran in the coming days, what their stance will be. Are they going to be hardliners or are they going to be pragmatists? There is talk that the leaders of Iran will meet in the coming days, discuss the current situation and see where things will go. Because at the end of the day, um, it comes down to them and how they connect and speak to the Americans if they do want to put an end to this war as it is and how they want to come out of it. This is on the Iranian and the American part. The other part that we must look out for is the Zionist entity and how it acts and what it does in the region. As usual, we will see it further engulfing the region, further putting oil on the fire to make sure that the fire is not extinguished. They've been warning about apparently Syrian forces that are being now sent to the Golan Heights area. This was a report that came out a few hours ago. So they are trying to say that there is great risk against Zionist entity. We must continue on all fronts. The war must not be put to an end abruptly or quickly, even if it goes on for weeks or months or even a year or two. It doesn't matter for the Zionists as long as they achieve the maximum damage as possible against the entire region and they come out on top. So we watch out on the Iranians, the Americans, and the Zionist entity, how they act in the coming days.
So, Milani, just final words, what you're going to be watching? What should we be looking at?
Well, what we'll be looking at from my perspective as a Muslim, as someone who has carries his own specific ideas about the world affairs and etc. Wars usually do not start and end simply by ceasefire. Wars, especially of this scale, they start and end by decisive victories at the end. And history tells us that wars of this scale will always end at the place where it started, not where the one who started the war, like Napoleon War. It ended in France. He started in France, ended in France. Hitler, Germany, started in Germany, ended in Germany. So today it starts in Tel Aviv, it will end in Tel Aviv. Whether the Iranians will be part of it or not, that's irrelevant. I look at the whole area, the Muslim world as one area, and Iran is part of it, whether we agree or with the Shia school of thought or not. That's not the time to dispute the madhab or the sectarian issues. It is everybody is impacted. Jordan has been impacted. Part of Egypt is impacted. Saudi Arabia is impacted. The Gulf state is impacted. Everyone is impacted. Similarly, as it was in Gaza, almost everyone was impacted. So this war would continue. It may have some ceasefires here and there, but at the end of the day, the nations, they do not forget. The memory of nations is way above and beyond the memories of individuals or sects or groups, especially when you talk about something like instead of a nation like an ummah, like Muslims is an ummah, it's not a nation. And this memory will be engraved in the veins of the Ummah all over, from Indonesia to Morocco, from Algeria to Turkey. Now, despite all of these rulers, the ones who put their heads and necks under the boots of Trump or Netanyahu, that's irrelevant. All of this is dynamics, and if those people who are in Tel Aviv or Washington or Riyadh or even in Iran itself, especially the top elites, if they think seriously, they should realize that they are really making the water boil more and more, which is at the end of the day will not be in their favor. Because I do believe that the real Islamic system is coming up. It's rising again, the revival of Islam, ideological revival, which is not going to seek what they call terrorizing the people or killing the people, uh, but on the contrary, it is an ideology that will come up that will promote justice, not only for Muslims in Iran, but for the kids who were deprived by Epstein files.
Okay. I think this war takes place where, if you look at the Western players, America's credibility is rock bottom. Public opinion in America is divided. The recent history of American interventions is not great. And then you have a president where he's completely divided the country through the middle. That's the position of America. If you look at Israel, the country that was a victim of a genocide is now being accused of committing a genocide.
Yeah.
The public perception of Israel is completely rock bottom. So, these countries go into this war not in a very good position. Their publics are divided over this, and global perception of America and Israel is even far worse. In the West, for example, especially in Europe, nobody wants their country to be associated with supporting Israel. Israel, this toxic product now. Nobody wants to touch it. And the perception of, America used to be a player in the world where, okay, they do good. Not anymore. That's completely gone. Everything America touches, it burns down to the ground. That's the perception around the world. So
Right.
definitely at Narrative House, we're going to continue watching this. As I mentioned, we're only 4 days in. And as the brother mentioned, I think every day, every hour, the developments are going in so many different directions. So every couple of days, we'll be bringing you an update. We'll be bringing you our forecast of what we feel is going on, where things are going. Obviously, it's a fast developing process, so things may change as soon as we get off the air. But hopefully that's been useful for everyone. And inshallah, until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa